of Personnel Services, Achievers University. You are welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us. And also we have the immediate past registrar, Achievers University, seated here with us, Reverend Canon, Dr. Bayode Oladimeji. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Thank you, sir. And of course, our greatest student of the Faculty of Law. A round of applause for yourself. You're welcome to this place. Faculty of Law for the welcome address. Of Law for the welcome address.
Of this. It is with great pleasure and profound gratitude that I welcome our distinguished guest lecturer, Mr. Daniel Onukwue, Board Secretary, Nigerian Revenue Services, formerly the Federal Inland Revenue Services, the Pro-Chancellor, the wife before the Pro-Chancellor, the amiable wife, Mrs. Doris Onukwue. You are welcome. The Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, Professor Bode Ayorinde, who is also a lawyer, members of the Governing Council, absent here but ably represented by the Provost of College of Postgraduate College, Professor Oyesoji Aremu, who will soon join us here. Members of the university management, deans here present, members of the academic community, learned colleagues, members of the bench and bar, staff members of the Faculty of Law, invited guests, students, members of the press, and all participants to the 6th public lecture of the Faculty of Law, Achievers University, Owo. Today's lecture reaffirms Achievers University's growing reputation and avowed commitment to legal education beyond the classroom. A public lecture like this would, therefore, stimulate intellectual engagement for our faculty and the university at large. The chosen theme, the Nigeria Tax Act 2025 and the renewed Fiscal Social Contract, implications for governance, public trust, and sustainable development, is timely and auspicious for national development. It would not have come at a better time than today to addressing a subject of great national importance. The passage of the Act represented one of the most significant fiscal and tax policy reforms in recent times. As Nigeria continues to pursue economic growth, physical sustainability, and improved public service delivery, discussions at fora such as this on taxation, governance, accountability, and the social contract between the government and the citizens have become increasingly relevant. As a faculty, we remain committed to fostering intellectual discourse that would contribute meaningfully to legal scholarship, public policy formulation, and societal development. Through our annual public lecture series, we seek to bridge the gap between the town and the gown by bringing contemporary legal and socio-economic issues into constructive academic and public conversations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today's event is particularly significant because it also marks the official commencement of the activities for the 2026 Faculty of Law Week. The public lecture serves as the first event in a carefully planned series of activities designed to promote academic excellence, professional development, social interaction, and community engagement among our students and stakeholders. After today's lecture, the Law Week programs continue on Tuesday, 2nd June 2026, with the moot court and mock trial competition, where our students will demonstrate their advocacy, research, and courtroom skills. On Wednesday, 3rd June 2026, our students will embark on a court visitation exercise, providing practical exposure to the workings of the judicial system. Other activities lined up during the week include various sporting events and recreational engagements aimed at fostering unity, wellness, and camaraderie among the members of the faculty. The week-long activities will culminate in the Faculty of Law Dinner and Awards Night on Saturday, 6th June 2026, and serve as the grand finale of the Law Week program. This occasion will provide an opportunity to celebrate excellence, strengthen professional networks, and appreciate the contributions of individuals and institutions that continue to support the growth and development of the faculty. On behalf of the Faculty of Law, I express our sincere appreciation to our guests and the members of his team from the NRS. You are all welcome, sirs and ma'ams. Sorry, permit me if I cannot mention names because I'm not so familiar with those names, but I greet you all for taking your time to join in our guest lecturer to attend this program. And again, I graciously thank our guest lecturer for honoring our invitation to share his invaluable insights on this important topic. The guest lecturer will illuminate our darkness with regard to some knotty issues still being debated in the public domain. The public lecture will provide a valuable platform for physical engagement with these emerging issues and offer an opportunity to interrogate the implications of the new act for effective governance, enhanced public trust, economic development, and sustainable nation building. From this vantage position, we shall surely drink from our guest lecturer's wealth of experience. The faculty is grateful to the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council actively in the discussions and take full advantage of the intellectual opportunities presented by this lecture. Once again, I heartily welcome everyone to the 6th public lecture of the Faculty of Law at Achievers University of Owo, and wish all us a fruitful and rewarding experience. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you so much, sir. The Dean of the Faculty of Law, Professor Olaseeni, for that warm welcome address. I'll be inviting for the reminiscences of the College of Law. For the reminiscences of the College of Law, I'll be invited to the microphone Dr. Omotuashe Samuel to take that.
Thank you, Mr. MC. Please let me stand.
Council of Legal Education accredited the law program and approved a quota of 50 students for admission. Our students have since been displaying distinction, as can be seen in the results welcomed us all, Professor Olaseeni Olaseeni, who is still actively driving that excellence foundation for our students. Today, as we have been told by the Dean, public lecture, and today our student population has grown from that 6 number. The faculty has not just joined the League of Providers of Legal Education in Nigeria, but it's taking its rightful place with well-equipped library,
not as your income. Those are the only allowances that are not taxable. For instance, your DTA. It's not meant to be income to you. It's meant to cover your transportation, your hotel, Sorry for that digression. Where one side fails to carry out its obligation or duty, the contract weakens. In other words, if taxpayers evade their obligation, the revenue needed to fund public services. If government collects without accountability, citizens lose the moral confidence to comply willingly. But where both sides take their obligations seriously, taxation becomes less of a burden imposed by force and more of a shared mechanism, administrative fragmentation, and uneven compliance. It also opens a broader discussion on digital tax administration, intergovernmental coordination, taxpayer protection, dispute resolution, and the use of revenue for development. Let me also pause a little here. I want to talk about the new law. You all know that the waiting in Nigeria without a fixed base. By fixed base, I mean without presence in Nigeria. Of recent that you have Google having a presence in Nigeria. Before now, Google have been operating in this country for a while, and they have been making money, and they have not been taxed. The same thing with Microsoft. The same thing with a number of our online businesses. Now, I think in the last 5 years, NRS, formerly FRS, we have entities are brought to book. They are taxable. But we had some difficulties under the old laws. But now, under the new laws, the new law has now enabled us to properly tax any entity making money from our soil. Whether they are physically present, whether they have a fixed base, whether this platform that sells products online, Temu, whether it is Temu or Alibaba or anywhere, there is nobody as of today that makes money from this country that will go without paying tax. The course of this paper is presented in 6 parts. It begins with the context that made reform necessary. It then explains the meaning of fiscal social contract and what that concept and why that concept matters in tax administration. It thereafter examines the 4 principal reform acts and discusses the implication of the reform for governance, public trust, and sustainable development. Identifies implementation risks and conclude with reflections for students, lecturers, professionals, public institutions, and citizens at large. The pre-reform context. Before the 2025 reform, Nigerian tax system was widely perceived as complex, fragmented, not always predictable. In such, for many small and medium science becomes doing business and ultimately affect national revenue. A few of the major reform challenges are discussed below. Let me pause a while. We all travel along the roads, either in commercial buses or in our private cars. Many of the time, we have been stopped. Local government tax, state government tax, this tax. And many of the time, we are disgusted. Part of the reform. It's part of the reform. Now look, it cannot be everybody. Dr. Mahari blocking the roads, doing, before you have a small business, you pay this. Another local government come, pay this. State government come, you pay this. All this, you pay this. All that, you pay that. It was killing businesses. We all know, I have talked about multiplicity of taxes. Low tax to GDP ratio. Nigerian tax to GDP ratio has historically been low when compared with African countries. The OECD revenue statistics in Africa 2025 country note reported Nigeria tax to GDP ratio at 8.2% in 2023, compared to an African average of, and our tax to GDP ratio is the least in Africa. Do you know why this is like that? For many years, we thought that public revenue is essentially oil. But I am proud to tell you today that taxes constitute, if 80 the months NNPC remitted money to the coffers of the Federation, it could not be more than 10 months or maximum 1 year. And many of those time, maybe 150 billion, maybe 100 billion, maybe 80 billion. But do you know what? NNPC had sold oil that we have not even extracted. So, all the money for lecturers' salary in our public universities, in our primary schools, in our secondary schools, in our hospitals, our roads, our security, police, soldiers, is all from tax money, not from oil. That is what they used to pay. It's not oil. We hope now that NNPC, having been privatized, it will soon get to a stage that they will be paying dividends and taxes for the federal government. I mean, for the government of the federation. So our tax to GDP ratio is worrisome. It's not defendable. And we cannot make progress with it. Mandate, including the target of raising Nigeria tax to GDP ratio to at least 18% by year 2026. I cannot say we are 18% now, but I know we are no longer 8%. At the time the committee was established in 2023, it was chaired by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, then fiscal policy partner and African tax leader at PwC, that's PricewaterhouseCoopers. Dependence on oil, I have talked about it. Ask the question, what are they doing with the tax they are collecting? I am not holding brief for government. I know equally that on many occasions we have instances when we have reasons to complain. And that is the focus of this paper. It's not about you, students alone. It's not about the taxpayers alone. The paper is saying that for this reform to be meaningful, there must be that public trust. Understandable. Put together, the fiscal social contract is the understanding that taxation must be marked by public value.
Are you ready? Please come forward. Please come forward.
My name is Owen. Because from my own point of view of 20. Okay, how can the implementation of Nigeria Tax Act 2025 a means of exploitation? Because I'll buy a commodity of 27,000 naira and they are telling me to pay 2,000 naira.
Good day, sir. Thank you for the lecture, sir. My name is Akini Yakimobola Clement, senior level law student. I have two questions here, sir. The first one is that, are there practical steps presently available for the accountability and transparency that you spoke on about taxes that are being paid by the citizens? The second one is accountability. The first one is that, are there practical steps and what are they to presently available for accountability and transparency on the use of the taxes that are being paid by the citizens? And the second question is that, what are the possible actions that can be taken by citizens of Nigeria where their...
Good day, sir. My name is Joy Eniola Oguyemi, and I am an 100-level law student. I have two questions here. And the first one speaks to the constitutional basis of paying tax. Earlier on, while you were while you were doing the lecture, yes, the first question is, you mentioned that Section 24 of the Constitution imposes a duty on citizens to pay tax. And the same Constitution in Section 6, sub 6, sub C of the same Constitution, it generally renders the provision of that. I mean that Section 24, like I mentioned earlier on, is contained under Chapter 2, which is non-justiciable. I would like that you kindly clarify the Constitution directly under the Constitution or through legislations that are enacted pursuant to it. And the second question is on the issue of, okay. Okay. All right, so the second question speaks to the issue of public trust that you mentioned in the latter part of your speech. You mentioned that there is a gap between public trust and compliance, which undermines the sustainable compliance of tax obligation. You also referred to the fiscal social contract. So I would like that, first, I would ask if you agree with me that accountability and transparency is not merely a consequence of taxation, but a prerequisite for sustainable tax compliance. So if that's the case, how do you think government can rebuild trust where the accountability and transparency is perceived to be lacking? And why I ask that question is because when the new tax acts, the 2025 tax acts, and some other people we know what they do. So, I'm sorry. So, if that's the case, how do you think the government can rebuild trust where accountability and transparency is lacking? Thank you, sir.
My name is Olaseni, the 100 level of student. Okay, great scholars they earn, the poor, the rich, they pay proportional to what they earn. But looking at the Nigerian Tax Act 2025, I see that while the poor people and small business are exempted, the weight of taxes still falls mostly on average workers and registered companies. These are people who already obey the law and cannot hide their income. However, experts have always said that our income has a very large informal sectors like the traders, the artisans, and many rich people still find ways to avoid paying tax. My question, okay. Okay, so my question is,
my name is Frank Mojimini from the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences. Sir, thank you for that beautiful lecture. You did say, sir, that our salaries as lecturers and other public service workers is paid entirely from the taxes collected. Am I right, sir? Okay. So then the question is, what happens to revenue from oil, from solid minerals, from agriculture? So if what you said is true, sir, then the follow-up question is free education doable, as was done during the regime of Chief Obafemi Awolowo? Is it doable? I mean, because most people say, no, it's not possible in today's Nigeria, in today's economy. But if that statement you made, sir, is true, that our salaries are 100% from taxes, then it means that the government has humongous amount of revenue available that could be put to good use in terms of providing not only good education, but health services and other things. So that is my question. And I round up with this, sir. The question is, okay, based on the present populace, as well as our resources, can we do the arithmetic? Is education, I don't mean 100% free, provide counterpart funding a little, but maybe tuition, is free, and children that are from poor homes can go to school. Can Nigeria afford it based on the present tax situation and based on our resources? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. My name is Samuel Omotunwase from Law Faculty. Achievers University. I want to appreciate your lecture, sir. Have been properly schooled. And which we know it has been so much rampant in Nigeria. Number one, we cannot even assess those that are susceptible to tax or taxes in Nigeria as of today. We normally make example of like Owo now, even everybody that's supposed to be taxpayers, do we have their list? It's not there. That is one thing. But there are some people that are living very large that we know, we can see. And probably there is no record of taxes paid by these people. I watched a video recently of one woman that her daughter was wedding. The kind of money they poured down at that occasion was unprecedented. Now, is there any way that this Tax Act has created a way to track those monies, these people that are living large, to make sure they are paying tax? Thank you.
So one more from one of our press men that is here.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Adegboye Galani from Adaba FM, Akure. This afternoon, one of the things you mentioned is the issue of tax evasion and two others like that. My question is straight, sir. How realistic is voluntary tax compliance in an economy facing inflation and unemployment environment?
Thank you very much. Okay, the boss, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for that lecture. Is really my area of interest. Revenue Office, you didn't know that the revenue, the allowances were taxed. So also I thought back then. But recently, the federal government approved the allowance for also Qatar.
Universities. And there's this discrimination. To consider the private university to benefit some fractions of this third fund account. That is my question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. The Pro-Chancellor, sir.
Our guest lecturer, I also want to join our colleagues to appreciate your very educative, informative discourse this afternoon. And the tax force stopped the vehicle, private car, private number, Camry, and they asked for the particulars. Achievers University Award was written on it as the owner. Similarly, you would have observed, sir. Similarly, you would have observed, sir, that no enterprise can brand their vehicles any longer. Banks, organizations, except government. Because if you pay in this local government or this state, as soon as you move to the new pay in this local government or this state, as soon as you move to the next state, they will impound the vehicle. Desperate businesses.
Once again to invite our guest lecturer.
That revenue agencies must be accountable. And I gave an example of the NRS. Say whether cottage or. And one day I was coming, and that notorious place, there was this retired justice they arrested there. Luckily, I was not, fortunately for them, I was not with my men. And I had to stop. And so far, so good. I have not been seeing them. And when I was delivering this lecture, I asked, because a mandate had been given to the IGP for tax fund discrimination. There's little I can do about that. For them. And how they are going to administer. That is what we practice in Nigeria. So it is the rich that pay more in Nigeria, not the poor. The poor pay less or not pay at all. That is the truth. Now, Dangote, I don't know how much, I always talk about Dangote. You've got to know how much tax Dangote pays. If you want to be lawful, you will pay more tax. So, if we tax somebody who earns $1 billion at 30%, 30% of 1 billion is 300 million. And we tax somebody who earns 100 million a year. It's a rich man that pay more tax in this country. As a tax practitioner, I am telling you that. That is not to say, one, lack of political will, two, knowledge, and three, as I said, the Board of Internal Revenue. There, those questions, Abi? Eh? Eh? Or president and vice president? No. I don't know what the new law says now. I know under the old law, the president, I don't know the current provision of the step available. Let me see those things you wrote down. Let me see those things you wrote down.
Somebody asked about constitution. How do you enforce those constitution that you quoted? How do you enforce it?
Somebody, the duty to pay tax is in chapter 2 of the Constitution, right? I have had cause to argue that in the cause. And the simple answer is this. What is not justiciable is the right imposed under that law and not the duties imposed. Giving you that they said is not justiciable, not the duty to pay, and you got to, I think it should be section 44. One of the reasons why the state can lay hold on your property is your failure to pay appropriate taxes. So can we then say that it is not justiciable, the duty for you to declare your income honestly? It's not on you, it's about the duties imposed on you to fund the state. In any case, it's not in your interest to say that chapter 2 is not justiciable. If it is, then the state will have no money to provide public utilities. It simply means you are not going to get a road. Those people, somebody asked a question, I said you put it down. Where is the person? And that question, that is very vital. That's why I want to answer that question. I've answered the one of relief for single mothers. I think, sir, I think I have covered a number of the questions. Thank you. Thank you.
We are progressing after the
2026, 1st June 2026. So I hand over to you, sir.
Thank you for the erudite lecture that you have given us, and we pray that you will continue to progress. So on behalf of Ashivas University, this is to mark your important and, in fact, unforgettable lecture today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, invite Mrs. Esther, the task controller. Send some books to the faculty.
You're welcome to the microphone.